today.
Okay.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
So what's the word, the Khmer word for teacher?
Maybe some of us have
ជំរាបសួរ
forgotten.
Hmm?
The
Khmer word for teacher is អ្នកគ្រូ
អ្នកគ្រូ
True.
ជំរាបសួរអ្នកគ្រូ
So you put it before or after the name of the person?
អ្នកគ្រូបើកកាមេរ៉ាតិចមកអ្នកគ្រូចង់ឃើញអ្នកគ្រូ
Yeah, before. So you should say ជំរាបសួរ before teacher.
Okay. So we're waiting a few minutes, maybe.
Yes. សិតាជួយហៅគ្នាយើងចូលក្នុង
ជំរាបសួរអ្នកគ្រូ
ជំរាបសួរលោកគ្រូជំរាបសួរ
Who we got? Okay, good. It's probably a good idea to write your name in Latin characters, Roman. Okay. Dale, you have a light behind you. We cannot see your face, but that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. That's better. Yeah, good. Close that. Minimize it. Minimize it. Minimize it. Close the chat. Close the chat. Okay. So while we are waiting, are you all in Phnom Penh? You are everywhere.
Yes, we do. Yes, I mean, we are.
You are what? In Phnom Penh?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
We are all in some of them are
Everybody? No, I don't think everyone is. I think you are scattered all over Cambodia. So how are you going to meet? Are you going to meet online every week, every day?
Actually, in this institute, we are supposed to study in class. Since there are a few cases affected already in the institute, I don't know for sure whether it's still going on.
Okay.
But let's check.
So in principle, you have to study in class face to face.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Who likes online? Anyone? Anybody like online teaching?
I prefer online than physical class.
Right too.
Ah, that's interesting.
Because during this period of time, it's safer to be online, not to be on site
Yes.
in class.
Yes, but it's a different dynamic. It's a different way of working, isn't it? I actually missed the class for social reasons, not for educational reasons. I think for kind of educational reasons, it's okay. I mean, the online works quite well. And it's very convenient, which means I don't have to, jump in the car, drive to the university, and so on, or get a tuk-tuk or whatever, you know. But it's kind of interesting. So we'll see if we ever get out of the COVID pandemic. I'm not sure that we will. Okay, so how are the numbers? Let's have a look. Numbers 35. So we're waiting for a few more people. But if we just wait 3 more minutes until 2:10, and then after that, maybe we will start. So did you meet Anya Lian, Dr. Anya Lian from Charles Darwin University?
Yeah,
Anya, show your face.
I have been. I've said hello to everyone who arrived. I've been here. I was first here.
Yes.
And then I welcomed so many students.
You're
So-
early bird teacher.
Yeah.
So Anya, do you want to explain to them who you are and what you're doing in this meeting today? I mean, you know, that you're the director of the project and so on.
Okay. So, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, teacher.
Oh,
Hello, teacher.
Hello, teacher.
So, my university is sponsoring this project. And in this project, what we want to do is to work with your lecturer and support her in creating an experiment that will model to you a different way of learning English. And we hope that after a while you will like it, and or at least you will be able to make up your mind whether you did or not. And maybe some of these practices you will not be afraid to use in school. The national curriculum of Cambodia is very much modern, but it is difficult. It is difficult to teach towards the national curriculum because it asks a lot from you. So with this project, myself, Professor Lian, and your lecturer, we hope to model different ways of learning English. So it's fun, you are connected to community, it's fun, you're learning things, and you are modeled a different way. So that's probably all I can say. I think that Andrew will take over the rest of the session and will take you through the steps, what we will do first, right? So I think that I'll just leave it to Andrew, and then if Andrew feels that I should add something, he will ask me.
Okay, so I'm going to treat you as if you were my students, okay? And I'm doing this on purpose because then I can do whatever I want with you and we can raise some interesting questions. Okay. So let me share my screen for a moment, and I'm going to show you just a minute. Ding, 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 and share. I'm going to show you, first of all, I'm going to tell you who I am. I am a professor of foreign language studies in Thailand, in Suranari University of Technology in Thailand. And I also of postgraduate education in English at Ho Chi Minh City University in Vietnam. My past is that I was the head of the school in Australia at the University of Canberra, and I am emeritus professor from the University of Canberra. Here you see some pictures that were taken. This is my website. You can find me at andrewlian.com. I will give that to you in a minute. And /new. And I want to show you something about my work. You can have a look at that through the publications that I have. And I want to explain something to you about research, publications, and what we're going to talk about. So this is some stuff which I've been doing. At the moment, I am working on the brain. We are doing some important instrumental studies on how people process language and what's the best way of giving people access to language. Okay. So here's a key article, that one there. Optimizing auditory input for foreign language learners through a verbotonal-based dichotic listening approach. And we're going to talk about this a little bit today. So don't get excited about not understanding the title. I'll try and explain it to you as we go through it. So I'm working with the brain. I work with theories of learning, theories of listening. I am very interested in areas like how we can make students, in this case you, more autonomous. Anyone want to tell me? Now, I don't know anything about your background, so you have to tell me, are you, what is the background of the group in general? Are you, have you had any training as teachers at all? Or have you had training in English? What's happening? So please tell me a little bit. Anybody? What's your background?
Okay, excuse me, teacher, you want us to tell about our teaching, our English background?
I want to know what you have studied.
Uh-huh.
And also any teaching maybe that you have done.
In terms of NIE or our...
I don't care. I just want to, okay, I will ask you a question differently. What do you guys know about teaching? It's a difficult question, I know that.
Okay, teacher mean that one like a background, right?
Mm-hmm.
The participation background, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So let's start from me first. Okay, good afternoon, Professor Andrew Lian and
That's right.
And teacher and the other participation in for this afternoon, right? So my name is James Sapir, right? I am come from Kampong Chhnang Province, the province in Cambodia, and my education background, I graduate English bachelor degree from the CICI, and one more thing, I graduate bachelor degree of the Khmer literature from the Royal University of Phnom Penh, right? And related to my experience working, I was an English teacher at least of 5 years, and the other experience as a marketing, right? Marketing when I was a student and I studied at university. Okay, thank you so much. It's so funny for my education background and my experience background. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so just in general, have you've all studied English at university, right? Turn your microphones on. Everybody turn your microphones on. Don't switch them off.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so you've all studied English. Have you studied anything to do with education? Has anybody studied anything about education? In that case, you should say no, 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 no. All right.
Yes, for the education, like I just took participation for pedagogy class, I mean that like a private pedagogy class, and
Okay.
I used to join the event related to threshold, right? When I were a private teacher. Okay.
Okay. So that's good. At least one of you has done something with teaching. How many of you have taught English? Say something in your microphone. How many of you have taught English?
Yes, professors.
Yes,
I
yeah.
have.
Yes, I
Professor, I taught.
I
Yeah,
I have.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So you've all been teaching. Quite a lot of you have been teaching, and so I'm going to ask you a little question. Okay. So what were you teaching? You were teaching English. What is English? And don't worry about being right or being wrong. There is no, by the way, there is no right answer. These are just questions to start thinking about things. What's English?
I'm teaching a grammar course and core English level intermediate teacher to my private class.
Okay.
At my private school.
Okay. You're teaching a why are you teaching a grammar class?
Yeah, I teach grammar class to my student by online, and my school's name is Aronda International School in a remote area very far from Phnom Penh.
Okay.
We are around 400 kilometers from Phnom Penh.
Okay, but why are you teaching grammar?
The main reason is that grammar is involved in many skills of English. Reading, we need grammar to understand the meaning, and speaking also we need grammar to order the sentence correctly. Writing, really important, the most important one that we need to use grammar correctly. And the most important one is taking the exam, taking the test for standard tests like TOEFL, IELTS, or study abroad. Yeah, many students really want to know and want to learn grammar. So that's the reason that.
So you think that grammar is good for passing tests?
Yeah, really useful for tests. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's English? Have any of you have you all thought about what you're teaching? So if you haven't thought about what you're teaching, you've kind of assumed that English is something that you know very well. I mean, I don't mean as a speaker, but that you know what English means. Maybe you have to think about it more carefully. All right. So one of the questions you can take from today's meeting is go home, or stay home, and ask yourself, what is language? All right. Good. So today I'm going to take you through a presentation which I did for another university, and which will help to introduce some of the work that you will be doing. By the way, everybody, is my English okay? I mean, are you understanding me easily?
Yes.
Yes, of course, teacher.
All of, okay. So where do you think I come from?
Australia.
You're just from Australia.
Why do you think that? Actually, there's a reason for asking you. It's not just for fun. So how do you make judgments about people? See, one of the things that you're going to have to do is to teach your students and yourself maybe how to make judgments about people. How do you understand people? You meet them and you say, ah, this person is like this and like that. We all do that. We all do that. So how do you make a judgment about people? So you all said I come from Australia. You all said I came from Australia. What made you decide I came from Australia? You're right. You are more or less right. Okay. So what did you hear from your teacher? Did you hear from the project? Did you hear from NIE? Did you look me up on the internet? What did you do? How did you work out that I came from Australia?
Maybe Sayan want to answer your questions. Son
Maybe
Sayan
who?
and Chanmuni.
Ah,
Yeah, these two people raised hand.
Oh, I didn't see them. I didn't see them raising. Oh, yes. Okay. So.
Hello, Teacher Andrew. Actually, I raised the hand because I want to answer what is, you asked what is English, but now it's gone.
No, it's you can go back to it. What is English?
Okay. Well, just for me, English is just a language. When we teach kids, of course, we will be teaching English to kids or to other people. But as a teacher, we don't only teach language. We teach like how they can make the living, morality, or how to behave well in a society or become a good person. Also, just tell them to choose their who they want to be. Yes. Just that's it. Thank you.
Good. Let me say one thing to you. That's a very nice definition. Okay, I mean it's a very nice definition of your job, but it's not quite a definition of English. So one of the things that you'll have to learn to do as you go through the education field is actually focus on the questions that are being asked of you. So what is English? We still don't know, but we know what you want to do with your students, and that's very good. I think you do have a responsibility to teach all of those things to your students, especially children, young children. So how many of you are going to teach primary school? Who will teach primary school? Yell into your microphone.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, no. Primary.
Secondary. Primary and secondary.
Secondary. I think most of you may be teaching secondary. All right. So let me ask you a different question. Maybe not. Why do I hesitate? Why do I hesitate? Because I'm actually constructing this class with you. Right? I'm actually constructing this class with you. I am listening to you, and I'm trying to understand you, and I'm trying to give you something that might be useful. There was another person who wanted to answer. So forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Chanmoni. Chum? Hello.
Chum Chanmoni, teacher.
Chum Chanmoni. Okay, Chum Chanmoni. Let's hear from you. You had your hand up. Okay. So let me let me ask you some. I'll start showing you my presentation. As I said, it was done for another university, but it will lead into the exercises that you will be doing in this course. And I will also be able to show you how to do some practical things like log into the Moodle website. Thank you everybody for logging into the Moodle website. You did, I think everybody is registered and everything is okay now. So let me share my screen again. Screen. So this is just an introduction. Don't worry about it. I wanted to talk to you about some things to do with the 21st century. And I really think it's very important to situate yourselves within the 21st century. Whether you are in Cambodia, whether you are in New York, it really makes no difference. All of these things will apply to all of us. So the first thing I wanted to say is that this century is really quite extraordinary. Okay, it's really quite extraordinary, and it is extraordinary because of technology. And one of the things we're going to use in this class is going to be some technology. Not very sophisticated technology, but good technology. And most of the things that are happening in our lives, or a lot of the things that are happening in our lives right now, are the result of technology. For example, we are talking to each other on the web like this, something which, 20 years ago, we could only dream of. And 20 years ago is not a long way back. 20 years ago was the year 2000. And I wanted to point out to you some of the technologies that are going to be important for the 21st century, and that you will use at some stage, and you may be already using them in some way. First one is artificial intelligence. Now, I'm aware, of course, when I say this, that there is a big difference between what research is doing and the conditions of everyday teaching. I am aware that there is still difficulties in terms of travel, in terms of living in remote areas of countries like Cambodia. And countries like Thailand are also suffering from the same thing. But in the next 20 years or so, the situation will change, and it will change largely because of technology. So here's one of the things that will change it. It's called artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence will help us to create systems that will allow us to teach better. Right? So at the moment, we rely a lot on teachers, and that's very good. But in the future, we will rely on a combination of people and of technology. And you are part of that right now, and it will grow with you. And we will use things like machine learning. Machine learning is learning by computer programs. What will they learn? Well, machines will learn your patterns. They will learn your preferences. They will learn the ways that you think. And some people think this is a good idea, but others think it's not a good idea. So we are now into a period where we are working with big data. Big data is because we can collect a lot of information about people. We get some statistics about them, and then we can also focus on them individually. There's biotechnology, which is a huge area of work which connects biology with technology. Things of the kind that I'm doing with students, and you might want to be part of that one day. But at the heart of all of this, is the understanding that we are embodied. Okay, what does that mean? We live inside a body. Our mind lives inside a body. And it is dependent on that body. So our mind is in our mind. We don't quite know where it is. We think it's in the brain, but maybe it isn't. But our mind is trapped inside our bodies. This is really, really important. I want you to think about that when you go home. Our mind is not our body. Our body connects our mind with the world. Now, this is all very, very important in terms of pedagogy and in terms of the way that you will be thinking about pedagogy. I also know that this is not how pedagogy is commonly taught. I am very aware that people tend to focus on technique. I know we tend to focus on techniques rather than on theoretical stuff.
Cô chui bánh tí cô này cô ngọc phong tại miền Thái là cô
Okay. The second thing is that we now have to realize that we are biological, right? We are not just a soul or a mind, we are biological. And that means that we are the slaves. We are the slaves of our bodies. Our bodies determine how we do things. So, for example, our bodies tell us how we process language. And this is very important. So, grammar, which is the result of the which organizes language, is very likely to be connected with the fact that we are biological and that our brain cannot process things except in a specific way. I'm not going to talk about this, but people are very quickly, some people are worried that all of this new technology will create problems for us and that we will be hacked by commercial organizations which will try to sell us things. But it's also should be said that if we are hacked, we will be hacked for good reasons. And finally, there is a thing which is interesting, which happens more and more as the technology progresses, and that is that people sometimes change jobs. And there is a kind of cycle about every 7 to 10 years. There is a revolution in the technology, and that changes everything. But I wanted to show you this little drawing. This is, can anybody, all right, turn on your microphones. Can anybody tell me what the red line represents? What does the red line represent?
Okay, teacher, let me think about this.
For my opinion, I think that it is a constant and never-ending improvement, like a progress and the progress and the time that we need to improve your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
guess.
it's not bad. This is pretty good. But look, it says the red curve represents the growth of technological power. So technology grows very fast. You can see it's growing fast. And the blue line, what do you think the blue line represents?
Teacher, I think this graph is about it means that the technology is growing so faster than the time compared to the past. Right now, technology is really moving rapidly and more
Yes.
modern than the past, than the past and than the time right now.
Yes, but that's not, it's not about time. Curve represents intellectual growth. In other words, how our brain is developing. So our brain is developing slowly and the technology is developing quickly. Okay, and we need to change the shape of the curve. We need to make our brain develop faster, more like the technology, but it takes time and it's very difficult. So higher education will help. And that's why higher education is important. And you're involved in teacher education. You're in the higher education sector as students, and this is something you will have to work with. Not because this will train us for a specific job that we will keep forever, but because it enables us to adapt better to the world. So we need to change the shape of that line, and we can use technology to help us do that. I'm not going to talk about that. And I'm just going to mention very quickly that the post-COVID condition is with us. Post-COVID means that we have finished with the disease. I don't think that we will finish with the disease very easily. I think that there will be other diseases that will appear before us. And not only that, but we have changed our habits of work. A lot of people are now used to working at home, right? Home will be the place where we do everything, right? Home will no longer be the place where you go to sleep and relax. But actually, as it is now, the place where you do everything. And people have realized that this is so. One of the things about the COVID pandemic is that we now know that we can do it. And so there will be big changes which occur in society in general. Even if the COVID disappears, and even if nothing replaces it. Home will no longer be the place where you go to sleep and relax, but the place where you do everything. And this creates all kinds of issues and all kinds of problems, such as, for example, in my case, what do I do if the dog barks in the middle of my lecture? Okay. Or if the cat attacks the other cat and make a lot of noise. All right. Now, I'm not going to talk about blended learning. By the way, have any of you heard of blended learning?
Yes, we do.
Good. What is it?
For me,
Blended learning.
I think blended learning is a combination of learning online and also physical classroom. It's like combined together.
Okay.
That's just my idea. It's a combination. It's a combination.
Okay, good. So you think it is a combination of technology work and kind of face-to-face work, right? Am I right?
Yes, teacher.
I think that it's refer to synchronous asynchronous, and one more face-to-face is a blended learning, teacher.
Okay, so some of it is asynchronous.
Yes.
Right? Asynchronous, not synchronous. And some of it is synchronous. Okay, good. So do we need technology for that?
Yes, sure.
No.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do, teachers. So we did the modern technology to have when we study blended learning, right?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Actually, we
Because
don't.
blended learning is so sometimes we can say different or difficult from the traditional learning, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Well, it depends.
when we apply for the blended learning, so all students need to know well how to use the modern technology, right? If the student don't know how to use this technology, so that sometimes we have to apply for the student, right? Okay, so my idea, teacher.
Okay. So when I was young, we did not have the technology that we have today. So was blended learning impossible?
I don't think it is possible, teacher.
Mm-hmm. And you say this because we need the technology to be able to study, right?
Yes, because we need teacher need technology to handle classroom.
Mm-hmm. Now, maybe, yes?
For my idea is a little bit different from the others. I think back then it would be possible to have, some kind of learning as well, but it might be in different ways. Yep. So today, because we have a lot of technologies, then we can call it blended learning. But if the virus, happened in, like, for example, 1990, then maybe school can, I think maybe they can make it into something, which can provide some kind of learning to students.
So what do you need? What do you need to have blended learning? So in 1990, there was no technology that we have today, but we can still do blended learning, is what you're saying. So, yes?
Well, honestly, I don't say that they can do blended learning, but I said that maybe they might have another way of learning, which we might not call blended learning. And I think one way that they can do, maybe they can just ask the student to come to school to take the worksheet, something like that.
Okay, so instead of thinking about blended learning as a very narrow definition of we need technology and we need a classroom, face-to-face classroom, you can think of blended learning as being, yes, we have face-to-face classroom, but instead of technology, we can have resources. So let's say that you need to find out how to do a weather forecast in English. How are you going to find out how to do a weather forecast? Well, you're going to go to, today, we're going to go to the internet, but 30 years ago, maybe we went to a television or we went to radio and we discovered how to do the job. So instead of thinking of it as a form of just technology and face-to-face, think of it as resources. By resources, I mean books, I mean people, I mean TV, I mean video, all of those things. Resources and face-to-face. A more ancient form of that, an older form of that, is a library. Okay, so when you go to the library, you have a lot of resources, and then you teach yourself something in the library, or you do an assignment that the teacher has asked you to do, and then you come to class. That too is blended learning. So the idea that blended learning is something new, or that it is dependent exclusively on technology, is actually not correct. Blended learning has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's just that we are now excited about it, and because we have technology, we talk about it more. But in the olden days, all it means is that you have a student, the student goes to class, or the student uses resources. That is what blended learning is. It's a combination of two different kinds of study. So, sorry guys, blended learning is not new. Okay, but it is made a lot easier by modern technology.
Okay.
And it's because it's made a lot easier by modern technology that people are getting excited about it. The problem is that nobody remembers the origins, the origins of blended learning, which is resources and classes. Okay, so what you need to start doing now is to start thinking in more general terms. Instead of focusing on very narrow technical things, think of it as a very big open area. Oh yeah, there's some resources, there's a library, there's some people I can talk to, there's some friends, there's a teacher, and then the classroom work. I'll have to get myself a chicken. Okay, that's good. So they wanted me to talk about blended learning, and so that's good that you have heard of blended learning, but we're not going to spend time on that, and I will start resharing my screen. I'll just show you the slides very quickly. One of the things about blended learning that is very important is that
Excuse me,
yes. Hello.
Okay. Oh, okay, teacher, that's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah. Previously, the sound was interrupted, but now that's okay, teacher.
It's okay. Okay, good. So one of the things about blended learning that's really important is that it is a form of individualization. You can individualize the learning process because the students, when they are not in class and when they have to study on their own, can deal with the problem in ways which are not predictable. So cannot necessarily help them a lot to do that. And what we have is that if we look at this slide, real blended learning comes from an understanding that individual learning problems are not predictable. Individual learning problems are not predictable. I don't mean problems, individual problems of a more general nature, but particularly learning problems are not predictable because they emerge not from the teacher's imagination. Right? They emerge not from the teacher's imagination, but from the real difficulties of learners as they encounter them while trying to solve specific personal problems. Okay. So when people talk to you about blended learning, just remember that the way blended learning is constructed is designed to meet the individual problems of learners. And here's something for you. Here's a an interesting video that I will show you. Maybe I can't show it to you. Okay, here's a task. It's not doing anything. No, it's not working for some reason. All right. So our task, our job will be to help students find solutions to specific problems. The question, of course, is how do we help students and their individual problems? And here are some possibilities. The teacher, the learner themselves, artificial intelligence, neural networks, machine learning, big data, biotechnology, and the things that I talked to you about before. We can use all of these things to help learning happen. What I'd like to show you here, and I'm just going to show you the picture because it's just too complicated to deal with. If you want to personalize the learning experience, you can set up networks of resources. This one is called a rhizomatic network. In case you don't know the word, don't worry about it. I will write the word down in the chat box. This is a rhizomatic network. And this is a representation of how people can try to solve their own personal problems without a teacher, but with resources. And the resources in this case, yes, they are resources which are computerized. And it makes life much, much more easy. And what do we notice? That there are all sorts of strange things in there that can be used. And I'm not going to talk about them because I'd need to speak to you for a semester or half a semester to deal with it. So just look at it. Here's the student on the left. Actually, I get to this annotation. So here's the student there. And then the student is connected to a multimedia database. You all know what a multimedia database is? Take your microphones, put your microphones on and say something. Do you all know what a multimedia database is? Do you know what a database is? Okay. Yes?
I have no ideas, teacher, about this.
Okay. A database is a piece of software where you can store information. It's very simple, but it's called a database. It's very simple, and then you can find the information easily on it. Okay, and it's multimedia. Do you understand what multimedia means?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
So it's a combination of audio, visual, and other information. And then the student can ask questions of the database, for example. Okay, so the student can't, for some reason, I can't turn the spotlight on. Okay. See, the student can actually ask questions of this database and get some information. And we're not going to go into that now, but maybe one day we will later on, but it's very important. But the student also has access to other things like, oops. Oh dear. The student has access to other things such as dialogue generators and exercise generators and artificial intelligence systems and automatic systems. All of these things can be created fairly easily. I mean, they cost a bit of money to put together, but once you've done it, then it's available for everybody. Let me erase all of that. Okay, so we ran similar systems with other technologies. And I'm just going to show them to you quickly. I'm not going to spend time, but look the things you can do a day on French televisions and so on. One person that you should learn about is called Sugata Mitra. Sugata Mitra is a professor of educational technology at the University of Newcastle. He's retired now. He's an Indian, and he did some work on self-organizing learning environments. Self-organizing learning environments. These are environments where the students organize themselves in order to learn something without a teacher. And he did a very famous study called the hole in the wall experiment. I will suggest to you that you go and read up about it just for fun. It may not be part of your syllabus, but have a look at it anyway. The idea is you ask a big question. So, for example, a question which will be of interest to students. And then you provide resources. Then you give people time. Then you offer them encouragement. And learning happens. You see, one of the things that I wanted to raise with you today, one of the things that I wanted to make you aware of is that you don't necessarily need a teacher for learning to happen. Or another way of putting it is you don't necessarily have to teach something for something to be learned. There are big systems like the Sudbury Valley school system, which do not have the traditional structures of educational organizations. So this is just some pictures of the hole in the wall experiment. These are children learning things on their own in India with just a very simple computer in a wall, and they teach themselves things. Some things that we've discovered are that in certain circumstances, not every circumstance, but in certain circumstances, students can learn autonomously very effectively without actually being taught. So the first line, the first article, this is some work which has been published by myself and by my students. An investigation of autonomous English learners, personal learning environments. They did some study on tourism, the language of tourism, and they used a virtual world to work in. Have you all heard of, sorry, have you all heard of Second Life? Second Life, anybody? No, okay. So go and look up, when you go home or when you have a moment, go and look up the words Second Life and look it up on Google, and it will connect you to a website where you can create an artificial world for the students to learn in. All right, and so on. So there's some other things. For example, the third article in that list by Lou V and me and so on, developing EFL learners' listening comprehension through a computer-assisted, self-regulated, prosody-based listening comprehension platform, where students self-taught themselves listening comprehension. And there are variations of that. For example, in Indonesia, Anya and I, but mainly Anya, is doing some work with students and teaching them how to write better. not by teaching them grammar, but by teaching them the rhythms of English, of written English. Okay. How are we going? Do you want to have 5 minutes break? Hello. Is anybody still there?
Yep.
Yeah, teacher. Teacher.
Okay. Do you want to have a little?
Sure.
Okay. We'll have a break until 3:10. Okay. Little break.
Got it. Thanks.
Think about the things we were talking about. I know it's a lot. I will send you, and I have already sent the PowerPoint to your teacher, and she can give it to you, and you can look at it on your own. So don't worry about it. If you haven't understood things, you can go and listen to it, look at it. Okay? All right. Little break. 7 minutes, 6 minutes. Bye.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Pair.
Bật camera.
Mấy bọn ấy
Bật camera.
Bật camera mình. Cái cú đập lên.
Bật camera thẻ là hay. Bật camera chụp, bật camera thẻ. Nè kêu dạy hay, kêu dạy hay.
Bật lên.
Kêu bật tha. Nè kêu bật tha nè nè bật camera nè chụp nè nè bật camera thẻ ô tô. Ok, nó chụp tại cái đà, bật những chụp tại cái đà.
Có mà.
Anh được cái này dương tru su ở trên đây mình slide nhé. Ngặt tới.
Slide nè kêu slide.
Nè kêu trong slide ở chọn đây bàn tay. Bây giờ thằng nhom lịch stir rồi có khi mà đáp thầm nô quát. Bây giờ thầm lên quát hiện lư, bây giờ hiện thông bạch mấy này của bây giờ mình chậm đi có đáp bán của class.
Ra xong đến có điện color từ từ.
Bạn của việc cái sound problem.
Tại sao còn cái việc xong cái này tới chỉ ở bán ta xin nhớ cho bán dương ai xua xong một quạt lang với bàn.
But tu sắp nhưng mình lưu lại tích chứ, nó cũng đọc cái.
Hai là siêu nhưng nhà chun chạy tới nơi về để có chập chẳng hạn ấy gì cũng thấy tha ở bàn cọt đừng ngồi có thường mệnh bằng bạn này cái san chẳng hạn.
Yeah, teacher, yes.
Cho nên cô what the main nó cô lẹ what the main.
Nhưng ai khang thiên dương cọt nào chẳng á.
Ok bạn cô bạn.
Đồ luôn chẳng biết chung thầy năng tự dương đã áo chào chúng tôi từ nào không có gì chỉ ngồi lại bật camera của cái này đang tới từ nào từ đấy.
Đây nè kêu camera đây là kêu. Bật camera nó không biết.
Số nó cô session có trọng mong mà đó cô.
Khi mà có thể mà tê này hai thầy mà sinh dịch tê muối dương cái này dương trong tình từ môn đời hạt ở vậy muối nước nhưng ai nhà sao phải có cho dân ngày ấy cứ dương năng to mà tê tiếp mang đợt tái còn năng và hai dương vì ca cho từ can một đồ chân ngày nắng còn ập chập bàn tế ngày ấy còn năng to ở một đồ vừa tê năng.
Okay, teacher, okay. Yes, teacher, yes.
Ngày năng còn ai chỉ từ sân hơi cho từ thưa được có cho từ can một đó nó miền phiệp qua chừng đến qua vì còn cần Chắc mà còn hàng cái đắng mình đừng ao dương cho tự can một đó.
Yes, teacher, yes.
Rồi quát chỉ tôi tới ao từ cho room cứ quát ao dương bảo tiền camera bao từng microphone. Chẳng hạn á. Nên ngày
Yes,
hai
teacher.
tháng dương ní quát đang tha tao và bọn mình dương không bị quát mà tê quát vừa cả ai kể trong tục cái đặt lại ai chứ mà mình nào được tha nè. Nâng dương này với làm viên sầm lên mình tha sầm lên cái được bao nhiêu được có sầm lên năng làm viên chặt chặt bỏ tiệt
Mình mon là nhiều cái đợi mình
Mon tiên.
mon nhông mà hay
Mon à. Có tay phai.
năng ngày thầy chân tới cháu tới đồng khan này đặt tới
lại mòn nghêu mấy nhá mòn nghêu khang nè còn chả phê
mon nhung mà đăng nhung bác cái mà chạy từ mấy nhung bật sờ lên nha đợt hay nhung mà đăng nhung bác mà như nhung phòng đi đá raไป high click bật vĩnh lên cho bằng đồng nhà xa phe ai mon nhung bằng nhiều không cho nhung mà đăng men
Chắc con dây rồi ta con dây
chơi với tha pet sờ bài ngày pet
nhưng tôi đang cắt tục vậy cọc chặt bỏ sầm nén vậy nè bỏ sầm nén meditation một mình đây
thầy ta nó là ban lư không chẳng là bây giờ đang hẹn dây bị ấy tới chơi
nhầm lư sau đây bên nhầm meditation nhầm lư sau cái bọc phưng
Ai nhớ đang mày ở cái cười nhá mình thầm tập này hợp về này bữa chặt phai thèm chưa đang rụng cơ tiệt đôi nhẹ đi thôi chẳng cơ làm cơ cho cơ làm thà ô cua đấy mình nghĩ chỗ đau
là cái teacher là cái teacher
chả phê
cái network của đang luôn này ai vừa rong ai thì nhẹ cơ ở đây được chưa
tam bật bật máy cứ nẹt cừu vừa ban là mình tên trong sao nẹt cừu nè mình đây thà ao tăng smart thị mình tới đầm bay ở rong nhưng ngọt cùng nói bài phim ta sẽ đạp ta sẽ lên bọc cừu chẳng á nhưng đau 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 mau đặt nông nã tới vì ọt lư thì dùng lên hàng cào nữa
á
ọt lư bao lần cơ bật tục
trong thật mấy em toàn tay sừng lên ấy vậy nặng o tập bị đó và ao như một đó cái một đó tiếc đấy
teacher
mấy anh gì chờ niệm cuối cái anh gì cuối chừng cuối đang sầm đấy đặt cá đây ta hoàng ngày đang được ta tọ mong
này teacher
dạ
bậc mấy nhầm thơm meditation pra nhầm pay pra tu sắp nhom mắt đã say lên nó pe teacher bật lên đó nó thấy mà phá luôn nhưng đâu bên nào tê bắt đầu phá lại hay cầm rác teacher thay đặt đây lên tóc hả đâu nhưng mà bên này tê bắt đầu phá bên mặt thân ai mong meditation
làm vô lấy kẹt đi chừng ngồi làm
thì chấp ra bài hỏi gì à
mình đã hà về cái hà nhầm lên hoàn đang ngậm bên nữ bài ấy
nhưng mà đây nhưng mà rắm thì chắc là đi chơi chơi
ở đây về đây cũ quạt xua ta dương hiện on na hơi ca bằng hiện mọi dương được bọc sao bao nhiêu tại ở khi ngắt nhưng vậy mà thật chung anh mình chỉ xem ngắt cô cái này ở thiên béo cô thôi hiện man bán bao giờ luôn này đó sao ông lấy ba
mà bên toàn squad chat and teacher Andrew giờ và bên squad mình nói con vợ
nên đây này cô mà bị mùi ngồi đê cho ngày vậy
chẳng à
vô tới chân ai cừu vào tam dương đá cái này dương mà riết này cái dương mà riết này đi ai cừu vào
ណាគេកើតទុកអីមិនសូវស្ងប់អីស្ដាប់តែភ័ក្រសើចទៅធូរស្បើយមកវិញហ្នឹងណា
មិនប្រកាសថាគាត់សើចសប្បាយហ្នឹងគាត់អត់មានទុកទេពេលខ្លះមានទុកដែរប៉ុន្តែយើងអត់បង្ហាញ
អាយ៉ាលោកគ្រូចេះចិត្តជេរច្រើន លោកគ្រូមកចិត្តខ្ញុំដឹងទេបាទខ្ញុំស្អីកើតទុកទេលោកគ្រូបាក់ចិត្តនឹងអត់លុយចាស់
ប៉ុណ្ណឹងអត់លុយតែប៉ុណ្ណឹងទេតែមកមានលុយចាស់ទៀតដឹងកម្រិតណាទៅ
Good. Okay, so I'm sorry, I took a little bit longer. Coffee machine was a bit slow. So I decided to have a coffee while talking to you. You hope you're doing the same. You've got coffee and drinks and other good things to keep you busy. Does anybody remember what we talked about?
We talked about blended learning, one of the things that you mentioned.
And what's that? Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Who's answering?
No, teacher, it's okay.
No. Go on.
Okay, teacher, can I, teacher?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, according to my observation, I think that that means you will mention about the differentiate technique or different way how to learn English as a second language efficient. Okay, this is my opinion, teacher. And one more thing, we learned integrate skill with with technology. Yes.
But what did we talk about before we had the break?
Okay, talking. Okay, some kidding, teacher. Okay, kidding story.
Some what story?
Okay, something make
fun.
Make fun.
Okay.
Oh no!
During during a break.
None of it. During the break, but that's not what I was talking about. What did I talk about before we had the break? Can anybody,
you wanted to discuss?
Can anybody remember?
So teacher talking about the second life.
Yes. What second life?
Yeah. What is the second life?
Yes. Okay. Second life is a virtual world. Okay. So when you go back home, when when we finish this meeting, we will have a recording of it. You can go and listen to it on your own. I suggest you spend some time trying to understand it. I know it is difficult. I know it is complicated. I know you are with someone teaching you that you have never met before. And I have my own accent, you have your own accent. And so on. So and you have also something else, which is, or we all have something else, which is the way in which we think about things. And so one of the important outcomes from today is not just going to be things like, oh, here's how to use the Moodle site, because that's very easy. The important thing is to understand why we are doing the things that we are doing in the Moodle site. And this is what I'm going to talk about more now. I'm going to concentrate more on that. For a few minutes. If any of you have to leave at around 4 o'clock or something like that, please leave. Maybe we will spend a few more minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm not quite sure, but I also have to go and take my little cat to the vet, and okay. I will be going. I will have to leave shortly after 4 o'clock also. Okay. So let's start now quickly with sharing the screen, and I will take you on a little trip. I will take you on a little trip. A little intellectual trip. Okay. Remember, the most important thing about your career and your study is the way that you think about things. Okay, now why don't I get the... All right. So I'm going to take you, I can't for some reason, I can't get the screen to work properly. Oh, yes, I can. So I'm going to take you on a little trip. The little trip is called Focus on the Physical. Focus on the physical. And it will also include talking about perception. What does focus on the physical mean? You remember that I said at the beginning of the session that we are trapped inside a body. And we do not do very much with that body, and we don't do enough, and there is still a lot of investigation. So here's something that you need to understand. The physical quality of the input actually matters. In other words, the quality of the auditory signals that come into your ears really matters much more than before. In the past, we've said, oh, you just have to be able to hear something. You use a tape recorder, you use a computer, you use a video. Here it is. Well, the research that we are doing currently with my team in Thailand and in Indonesia is that the physical quality of the input actually matters. Now, has anyone heard of Krashen? This man called Krashen, has anybody heard of him?
Yes, teacher.
Yes. Good. Well, what did Krashen say? Okay, if you've heard of him, you might as well tell me. What does Krashen say?
I remember one of his series is about comprehensible input.
Good. What's that? Tell me more.
Comprehensible input refer to the input that is slightly beyond the current student ability. So it's not too difficult and it's not too easy. So that can
and do you understand that?
From I understand is that, like, for example, when you have to teach a particular like language point, so the way you use your material, you also have to take his theory to consideration, like comprehensible input. Make sure the lesson that you are going to teach a student is not too difficult. If it's too difficult, maybe you can simplify that, make some changes to make it suitable for a student's ability.
How do you work out your student's ability?
I guess if you have been working with them for quite a while, you probably can measure their ability.
Okay, so you are guessing. And you think everybody will have the same ability?
No.
No. So how can you possibly do what you said you want to do?
Like, how can we know whether, like, the student level?
The answer is you can't. You cannot.
Yes.
Sorry, we don't have much time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But basically, you cannot. But anyway, but the usual notion of input that we use in language is related to the idea, to Krashen's idea of input. But I want to change that today for the purpose of our conversation. Input is not that kind of input. It is actually what you hear, thus the physical sound waves that you hear. If I can draw it, I'll try and draw it a little bit. Okay, you see this? That's the physical sound waves themselves. Because typically we don't think of input that way. Typically we think of input the way Krashen talks about it. And that's not what I mean. What I mean is actual sounds that you hear. Okay, got it? Everybody got that? You'll see in a minute. All right, so this is based on research that we're doing now, and it uses a theory of perception called verbotonalism. You don't need to worry about it now. I'll just talk about it quickly and we'll move on. So now there are systems that are based on our understanding that we live inside a body and that this body is physical in nature, that everything we do depends on that body, including making sense of what is happening around us. Right? In order to understand what is happening to us, we use our body. And the problem is that we do not see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. What I mean by that is that each of us sees the world slightly differently or a lot differently. I don't have time to go into the details of that, but that's the assumption that we're making in this research, and it seems to be correct. For example, we may be able to make learning easier. This is a key sentence, this one. We may be able to make the learning easier by reducing the load on the brain, by reducing the load, by making it easier for the brain to process the signal. And what's this? This is what the verbotonal theory of sound perception tries to do. It also tries to help us recognize how, reorganize how we recognize the sounds of language. In order to be able to hear the sounds of language, to produce the sounds of language correctly, we need to be able to hear them correctly. So here's an example. Oops. Wait a minute. Hello, come on. All right. So what's this?
I think that is intonation or actions.
Okay, very good. The top line is intonation. Okay, so the top line is intonation. So all of this is intonation. This is a different representation of the sound. So this is this is the intonation curve. What's intonation? What is intonation? Someone.
The way you pronounce the word correctly in the L2, teacher.
Maybe not.
Yes, teacher, the word intonation refer to how we sound the sentence based on itself. The question we need
I'm sorry, there's a noise coming from somewhere.
Teacher Kim Chai, I think.
Kim Chai, but you teach.
Okay.
Kim Chai.
All right. So intonation is the music of the language, okay? The melody of the language. That's a simple definition that you can remember very easily. It's the melody of the language.
Yes.
And for some reason, I'm not moving forward. Okay, just a moment. All right, we're going to use this verbotonal approach. And I'm going to play something to you. I hope you can hear it. I will play it now. Okay, so listen carefully. I'll make it louder. Hello. What's that?
Sound is not clear.
Sounds what?
I can't get it, teacher.
It depends what you want to get. What is it? I didn't say what does it mean. I didn't say what are the words. I said, what is it? Try thinking about what it is. Hello. What is it?
I think because of sound problems, can't hear it well.
No. There are no sound problems. There are no sound problems. Yes, good. Listen again. Hello. Can you repeat it?
To be honest, Professor,
Yes,
I just heard woo.
Yes,
woo.
That's
very
great.
good.
That's exactly what we wanted you to say. That's cool.
What is? That's right.
Yes.
You got it.
What is it? Yeah.
Is it a kind of expression from human? I mean,
Yes, it is from a human. Yes. But what is it? I didn't say what does it mean. What does it say? What are the words? What is it?
Oh, it means that.
Sorry?
It means that you approve what your student responds, I think.
Well, I don't know, but that's not the answer to the question. What you're trying to do is give meaning to that sound. I said, what is it?
Was it intonation, sir?
Very good. It was intonation. That is actually the music of a sentence or two sentences. Right. That's exactly correct. It is the music of a sentence. So listen again. Hello. Okay. Good. You missed a little beat, but yeah, it's okay.
Maybe everyone can repeat it, Andrew. Maybe everyone can repeat it to feel it.
Okay, we can try. Everybody, turn your microphones on. Listen first, and then when I say repeat, try to repeat it. Go on, repeat. Why can't you get it right? Why can't you get it right? This is a serious question. I'm not joking. I'm not trying to make fun of you. This is a serious question. Why could you not get it all right?
I think, teacher, if you let us practice it one by one, individual, I think we can do it better.
Sure. But why couldn't you get it? This is an important question.
Because we have the different intonation, Professor.
No, not because you have a different intonation.
No.
But because. All right, we don't have much time, so I'll tell you quickly, but because each of you hears things differently. That's the first step. Each of you hears things differently, right? And your students have the same problem. They hear things differently. Now,
I see. Thank you.
Now, you then have the second problem, which is to repeat it. So the first problem is hearing it, and the second problem is repeating it. Okay. So now let me play you the sentence without the manipulation.
Hello, how are you?
That was the sentence. That was the sentence. Listen again.
Hello, how are you?
Listen to the intonation. Listen.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Try. Sorry, I have a problem with my throat. Say it. All right, hum it, hum it. Go on, hum it.
Hello.
Very good. What about this one?
Hello, how are you?
Go on, say it.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
How are you?
Very good, very good. Now, I used a very Australian intonation there on purpose because it's kind of fun. Hello, how are you? How are you? How are you? Right? That's not British. It's not American. It's very Australian. Now, I want you to look at the picture on the left. Look at the picture on the left. What do you see? Well, you see a white space there, right? But if you look at the picture on the right, there is no white space. What's the difference? Well, the difference is that the left-hand picture, we have removed a lot of the frequencies of the particular sound in question. So the sentence, once you remove the frequencies at the top of the signal, you are left with the melody of the language. The melody of the language. The melody of the language, we go through what's called low pass filter. We go through a low, we create what's called a low pass filter. And here's that word, low pass filtering. And we are left, instead of hearing, hello, how are you? We are left with, And we can use that for awareness raising. So until now, you had never heard the intonation of a sentence on its own, right? But now you have. And now you know what it is, okay? It sounds funny, everybody laughed, and so on. But this is actually very, very serious work. And I have raised your awareness. I want to, underline the word awareness. I have raised your awareness of something that you did not know before. So one of the aspects of learning, any aspect of learning, is to become aware of the new thing that you want to learn. How you become aware will depend on many different things, of course. All right? So it depends on you, it depends on the signal that you hear, and so on. The other thing that's very, 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 very important is that low frequencies like the music, like the melody, is that it affects the right side of your brain. Okay? People tend to think that language lives on the left side of the brain, but actually it's a combination of the left brain and of the right brain. This is very important because by studying grammar, what do you tickle? What do you work with? You work with the left side of the brain, but if you work with intonation, you now work with the right side of the brain. And we know from other studies that the right brain deals with new things. The right brain deals with new things. It deals with what we call the unknown. And then it takes that information, processes it, starts to process it, and pushes it into the left side of the brain. And then the two sides of the brain work together. So what I was doing with you when we were listening to this is to stimulate your right brain. Although you were hearing it through both ears at the same time, I was stimulating the right hemisphere of your brain, specifically. And then when we listened to the sentence itself,
hello, how are you?
We then started connecting the right brain stimulation with the left side of the brain. And then that's how we connect the intonation with the grammar, with the words. The two work together, right? The two work together. They are not independent of each other, but quite often we do not work enough with the right brain. And this is one of the ways to do it. And we've done, this is called optimizing the signal. It's the way to best hear the signal. Okay, so when you go back and listen again, think about optimizing your students' experience. In this case, it's the actual physical signal, but it might be optimizing it in different ways also. So what are we trying to do? We stimulate the right brain. We don't normally, in language classes, any class, we normally stimulate basically the left brain. This is the opposite. We now stimulate the right brain. And then, after we have stimulated it by playing the music of the language, we add to it the words, and that connects it back into the left brain. At least that's the theory of it. And we have now some big studies which we are doing in China, which indicate that this is happening. So we are, by studying intonation patterns like this, we are reducing the load on the brain, and then we are able to allow the brain more energy, more processing power to deal with the signal of language. Okay. Now, we also went and did a different study, which I'll talk about briefly, and to which you will have access. Now, half of the work on Moodle is called Rhythms of Academic Writing. This is where you will have access to, every week, 5 new sentences. And you will be asked to listen to them carefully. You will be presented with a filtered version and then an unfiltered version. And you will be required to listen carefully. It's very, very important that you, for the experiment, it's very, very important that you do this work regularly. Some people think that there's a lot of repetition, and some people, not the students, but other people watching say, oh, you know, there's a lot of repetition, don't the students get bored? The answer is that so far, the students are not bored. It's surprising. And all you have to do is listen. You don't have to repeat actively, although you can. The main thing that you need to do is listen. And I'm telling you this because I'm going to take you to the Moodle in a few minutes. We'll have a look at it. Just listen and do it without worrying too much about what does this mean? Is this smart? Is this stupid or whatever? We've now done 8 experiments in Asia on this, and all 8 of them have given really quite extraordinary results in terms of outcome. Now, one of the ways in which we can do things a little bit differently is to use a dichotic approach. So the rhythms of academic writing are where you get the same signal in both ears. Okay. Now we're going to use what's called a dichotic approach. And a dichotic approach basically does the following. Here is somebody's head. Imagine it's your head. Through the left ear, you hear one sound, ba, for example. And in the right ear, you hear the sound, the sounds ga. As you can see, the 2 sounds are different. Okay? That's what dichotic means. You hear one signal through the left ear and a different signal through the right ear. In fact, in your exercises, you will hear a filtered signal in the left ear, which goes, and in the right ear, you will hear the words that go with it. Why is that? Because, can you see on the left here? Look carefully on the left. Can you see this blue line, this thick blue line? The signals that you send to the left ear go mainly to the right brain. They mainly go to the right brain. So sending signals in the left ear sends them to the right brain for processing. And then putting sentences in the right, on the right side, sends it to the left hemisphere. What's good about that is, well, the right brain is constructed to process melody, intonation, and the left brain is supposed to process things like grammar and vocabulary. And so what we're doing, we are sending the best signal to the correct hemisphere. Instead of having a mixture of signals, we now send only the correct signals to the correct hemisphere. And the recordings that we have in the dichotic part of the program are constructed that way. And I'm aware we're running out of time, so, okay. So here are some things that I will not explain, but they're kind of fun to look at. If you send here, I'll show you. If you send left ear filtered, right ear unfiltered, the brain is quite relaxed. See it here? It's quite happy. If you send the opposite, you send filtered stuff through the right ear, the brain is very upset. All right? And if you send both filtered, it's pretty low level. It's pretty low level load, so it's okay and you can study it, but it's not the best signal for language learning. So what are we doing? What are we saying? We're saying that if you want to learn a language, the best thing to do is to send students a signal which is best on their left ear with a filter, and they write here unfiltered. This is a different image, which is done with what's called an fMRI, or functional magnetic resonance imagery. It allows you to see the blood flow on both sides of the brain. I'm not going to talk about it because it's too complicated. Now, we also did some experiments with individual sounds between, for example, the difference between ship and sheep. And we discovered that each student had a preference for the kind of filter that worked for them. But I'm not going to talk about that, but I'll play it for you anyway, just for fun. Listen.
It's a cheap computer chip.
Oh dear, just a minute. All right, listen.
It's a cheap computer chip.
Can you hear the difference? Some people like that, and they pronounce it better when they hear it there.
It's a cheap computer chip. It's a cheap computer chip.
Different combination.
It's a cheap computer chip.
And final one. And it makes a difference.
It's a cheap computer chip.
Now, when we do all of this, we suddenly realize that people are very different from each other, and they require help which is not normally available to them. This is called, this is what I've called precision language education, and we need to move toward precision language education, as in this article that has been written. Okay, so I'm not going to show you anymore. I'm just going to show you the website for gosh, just a minute. I'm just going to show you the website for Moodle. For some reason, I can't get rid of this.
Excuse me, Teacher Andrew, I think you are muting yourself.
Wow. How much did you not hear? How long have I been muted?
Since you entered your password into this, platform.
All right. Okay, good. All right. I'll repeat it. So in the rhythms of academic writing, we're going to try and teach you the rhythms of written language. written language, even though it is not spoken, has a spoken rhythm connected with it, and also a spoken intonation connected with it. So we're going to try and train you in creating working on long sentences which come out of academic written text. All right. So you go into Cambodia, Rhythms of Academic Writing. You've only got access to 2 websites. They're both called Cambodia something. You are seeing a lot of chapters here, a lot of lessons, but actually they are not available to students. Oh gosh, all right. By the way, when I said that you needed to have a look, you needed to do the lessons carefully, I need to tell you that we are tracking you. In other words, we will know if you have done the lessons, if you have done them completely, and so on. All right. I strongly suggest that you try and get yourself some kind of system with a big screen, like a tablet or a big telephone or a laptop or something like that. If you can, if you don't have something at home, but if there is a library or if there is a university lab where you can go to work, then I suggest that you use that because it will be better on a bigger screen. Okay, so I'm going to take you on this demonstration lesson. See lesson 01, sentence 01, demo. This is a very simple, these are very simple structures. There's nothing much that you need to do. Just listen and repeat in your head and so on. So here we go. I'll take you through this. In one of the emails that I sent to one of the messages that I sent to you, I said, use the Moodle app on your telephone. Actually, you are better off using a browser on your telephone. Do you know what I mean by a browser? I mean something like use Chrome or Firefox, because you will have access to the recorder on there. Whereas for some reason, the app stops the recorder from working. All right, so let me take you on lesson sentence 01, demo. It will look like this. Not quite as much because I'm registered here as the teacher, so I can do things. Click on enter down at the bottom. And this is what you will see. Just wait a moment. And it will say Rhythms in Intonation of Academic Writing. You'll see 3 names on there. Lala Bumela Sudimantara. Lala has got his PhD. He used this work in his PhD, and he's obtained it. And one of the examiners said that he was, really, really good in the top 5% of the group. Click on next. It will say something like this. See it on the top, gocultures.com wants to use your microphone. Okay, I will say allow. And then we have some instructions. To start, click on the button marked 15F. Follow instructions as they appear here. Now, F means filtered, okay? Filtered language. So 15F means that you will hear the filter 15 times. In this demonstration, you will not hear the filter 15 times, you will just hear it 3 times, so we can move on. Okay, so 15F, here we go. There will be a big delay until it starts playing. Listen carefully. pattern, repeat it in your head during the silences. The pattern will be played 15 times.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
Okay, so listen to it in your head, repeat it in your head, and then now click on 10F. You can click on 10F, and here we go. We'll hear it twice only, but you can hum it in your head or you can hum it in reality.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
You don't have to be exactly right.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
You just have to get the rhythm right and the length right, but you don't have to get every little bit absolutely correct. And you have another instruction. To continue, click on button 15N.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
Okay, does anybody, can anybody say the words?
Turn on the mic.
Hello. Turn on your microphones. Turn on your microphones and answer my question. Can you all, or can you repeat what you heard?
This teacher is a learner agency is
good.
I'm not sure. Blah, blah, blah,
Okay,
what
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Yes. Okay. So at this stage, until now, we wanted you to exercise your listening. And if you press on the button marked TXT, it will give you the sentence. Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. So you can listen to it now.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
Repeat it. Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. Now all the buttons have arrived. You have a button marked 1N and another one marked 1F. They will play just one time the particular pattern. So 1F will play the filter once.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
And you can compare it with 1N.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
And if you use a laptop, you can record your voice. Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. And so we've stopped the recording and then this thing has appeared. Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. And we can compare it with this.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
And we can compare it with this.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics.
Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. Well, I'm a little bit faster here than I'm speaking in these other two examples. But anyway, so you get the idea. The idea is you basically listen, 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 and then produce. The important thing is the listening. It's much more important than the production. You will hear it more intensively. You will not hear it just 3 times. You will hear it 15 times. So it will become part of your rhythm. Then one of the other things that you need to do is to move to the rhythm of it. Move your body to the rhythm of it. So look at me if you can. Right? Learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. That's what I do. Anya is dancing a different dance. Right? Each of you can have your own dance.
Can we tap on the desk? Learner agency. Can I do
is
that?
an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. Or as Anya did, learner agency is an increasingly important area in applied linguistics. The reason for tapping and dancing is not for fun. The reason for tapping and dancing is actually for connecting the rhythm of the language with your body movements. There is very consistent research which shows that there is a connection, a direct connection between speech and body movement. Okay, none of this is just a joke. This is long research which has happened using it. We have a lot of research articles that you can read about it, and you can also read research done by other people in a different context. What we are doing at the moment is we are applying this to the context of Asia in a particular way. And what we discovered when we compared people who learned writing using the rhythms idea plus the idea of aesthetics and the idea of text structure, is that they outperformed other people who had been taught by a systemic functional linguistics approach. And that's been quite consistent in the studies that we did in Indonesia. Okay. The dichotic one, maybe I can spend a few minutes next week or the week after with you to show you how it works. In the dichotic approach, you hear the humming in the left ear and the speech in the right ear. But we don't have time to do it now because everybody has to disappear, and particularly teacher Neri, because I think she has an appointment to go to. So I suggest we stop there. I also suggest that we will make the video available to you. I would like you to go into the website when you can. You don't have to wait until the beginning. Well, yes, you do actually. Anya, you're there. I think they should not go into the website until we start the experiment. What do you think? But maybe they can do just demonstration lesson. Anya, are you there?
Yes, but it's this bit of research is yours. Mine is the different one, so you have to make a decision.
Okay, I don't care for this. This is just so little.
I think they can make no difference. It's only October. I think we take it easy, and they can start in November. After
yes,
they've
but
done
November is in 10 days.
So after we've done the pre-test.
Yes. So I look, I just want to give them some experience in playing with one of the systems. So what I will do is I will make the lesson that I made available now. I showed them, and only that one. The others will not be available. And then they can just listen to it. It's only one sentence anyway. I don't think it will make any difference at all to the experiment. But they can get some familiarity with logging into Moodle, finding the lesson, pressing the buttons and making it work. Because there's nothing worse than than trying to do something and you have technical problems. If you're going to use a phone, you may have to scroll up and down or sideways to find the buttons. And sometimes the title will not be in exactly the correct place. Don't worry about the title. These were done for the purpose of an experiment. They were not done as a commercial thing. Though maybe I'll try and make it run better for you. Okay. Okay, so I suggest we stop. It's now 4:10. Time for us to go to various doctors, I think. Well, I have to go to the vet for my kitten. Are there any comments? Everybody's very quiet. And it's okay, you can be quiet and you may think it's crazy. But let me quote Jack Ma. Jack Ma says, "We may be crazy, but we are not stupid." Okay? So, yes. So if you think it's crazy, that's okay. You can think of that. But also remember, there are many, many studies now. There's something like 20 articles which have appeared just on Southeast Asia, on my work and on the work of Anya and our students. So it's we'd like to introduce you to this new way of doing things, and one of the interesting things is that not only do you learn how to pronounce better, or do you learn about the structure of academic and other text, but very interestingly and very strangely, the rest of your English will improve too. Don't ask me how. We still have to do research on that. But with, in particular, we discovered that kids who had learned using filtering and dancing actually improved not only their pronunciation or their ability to speak, but all of the aspects of their English, which is remarkably worthwhile. I mean, they did this in a test which was run by the government and under no way influenced by the researcher. Okay, time to stop. Teacher Niria, Niri. Is it Niri?